I'm from Connecticut. I'm a small town kid. I never had dancing lessons or acting lessons or anything. I just did a little bit of small time theater, and there were hundreds of kids there, and man, they were like talented, and I was not. I was nobody. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I get a letter in the mail. I thought I'm never gonna get a part. I get a letter in the mail. I got a role, and so I was like, wow, that's intense. I mean, me, So I went to school. I was a big deal in my small town.
Mm-hmm.
My father, I can remember putting his arm around me and saying, "Son, when you're rich and famous, I'm going to live off your income." It was pretty heady stuff. Went to New York City, did really well my first semester. I mean, my teachers were fawning over me, saying, "You got talent, kid. You can do this." Maybe because I had a first tenor voice, so you know when you can sing like that, you could probably get a part anywhere because it's not as I can hit 4 or 5 high C's in a show, so that's a rare voice, and so therefore you have more likely to get a job than someone who's maybe a baritone. Um, but
It's kind of like guitar player versus a drummer. That
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a little bit more higher profile, so you're more likely to work in the industry. But after 6 months of being at school, I was in New York City. I didn't have a lot of money. I was supposed to get a job. I wasn't working. I didn't have food. And so I started selling drugs again. I thought, oh, I'll just do a little bit on the side to make a little money. And then I started doing drugs. And I was partying late at night. Then I wasn't showing up for classes in the morning. And I got kicked out of school. When I went back home to Connecticut, I was depressed. I was suicidal. I was doing drugs all day. I was going to work, and then I would come home, and I would do drugs until I fell asleep. I was messed up, man. My life was going nowhere. And it was actually my punk rocker brother who invited me to go to church. He had a purple mohawk, chains around his neck with a lock, big baggy pants and baggy shirt, and that he had to wear a belt, otherwise they would fall down, and he's like coming to me and saying, "Dude, man, you're messed up, you're not doing anything. you're losing life. You're just you're not taking showers. You don't have any friends. You're not doing anything. You're just doing drugs all the time, man." He says, "Maybe you ought to try going to church." He went to church one time, didn't go again for 3 years. Went one time and said, "You ought to try it." And I said, "No, I never went to church, did anything like that, didn't care." And so he said, "No, man, some of the old guys that we went to school with, they're going to church." And so I said, "No, get out of here." Pete was a bartender at a stripper place. Darby was a punk rocker. And these guys are going to church. I'm like, "Why?" And he says, "I don't know. They'll pick you up." I said, "Tell them to pick me up on Sunday." They said, "No, they go to church on Saturday, but they'll pick you up." So they did. They picked me up, and I went to church. And so I started reading the Bible, started getting to know Jesus, turned my life around, really changed me. Overcame my drug addiction, overcame my alcohol addiction. Started, becoming a productive citizen of society. Got my driver's license because even up until that time I didn't have my driver's license yet.
How old were you at this time?
20. Yeah. And so.
And since it was on Saturday, it would be the Seventh-day Adventist Church.
It was. My first church was a Seventh-day Adventist Church, Quinnebog, Seventh-day Adventist Church in Connecticut.
So your parents didn't take you to church when you were a kid?
No, not at all. We called ourselves Catholic, but just never. Yeah, if you know what I mean. It's one of those nominal Catholic things that we just never went. So that's when, about a year after that, after I joined the church and was baptized, I was here for camp meeting. And the young adults meet in the church here, right inside the village church. And I was there and I sang. By then I was writing my own music. I was starting to play the piano a little bit and get a feel, and so they asked me to sing.
When you say here, do you mean village church?
Right in the village church sanctuary, which is crazy because of how, all the connections. So I'm playing the piano, I'm singing my own song. When I'm finished, Kessner Robertson, who is one of the teachers over here at, was, obviously school doesn't exist anymore, but one of the teachers over here at Thayer, School of Music, came up to me afterwards and says, "Hey, you have an incredible voice, why don't you come and audition for AUC?" And I said, "Nah, I'm not very good at school." And he said, "Come on, we have full scholarships. You should come." And I'm like, "Oh, whatever, give me an appointment." I didn't want to do it. I was reluctant. I just thought, I don't want to get into the music industry. It's hard. But I thought, oh, well, I'll go and audition. What can I, full scholarship. I mean, how can you argue with that, right?
Right.
So I come out and, I audition and they give me the full scholarship right away. Immediately they give it to me and they're like, oh, just fill out this paperwork. And I was still wrestling, like, I don't want to do it. I don't, I'm not gonna do it. I'm not gonna do it. And, for almost a month I wrestled, and then I had this experience where I was walking home from work one day and some guy picks me up, hitchhiking on the way home, and I'm having a conversation with him, and he just says something, like, you know what you need to do. Come on, really. Stop hesitating. And so I made my decision that day, and I went to AUC, and I was in music the first year, full scholarship. I met my wife, Ani, A-N-I. I met her in my first semester, and we started becoming close friends and having a good experience on campus. And then it was about March. I just felt like that my life... music was nice and everything, and I know I was talented and whatever, and I can sing, but I didn't feel like that was what I was supposed to be doing. And so I started wrestling, like, what am I supposed to be doing? What am I supposed to be doing? And then one day I was in the Founders Hall, theology department. I'm walking through to a class, because we all had to take religion classes. And the dean stopped me. He said, young man, what are you doing? Dean Davis. And he said, what are you doing? I said, I'm going to class. What do you mean? And he says, you should be here in this department, man. You should be a pastor. I went, no, you don't understand, man. My background, I'm a bad, good people become pastors, not me. And he says, no. He said, I can tell something special about you. You should be a pastor. Man, I went home and I'm like, no. I'm laying in the dorm. I'm staring at the ceiling going, no, not a pastor, But I couldn't stop thinking about it. What would it be like to preach, to help people? And it just seemed like, a fairy tale, to get paid for that too, right? And so the more I thought about it, the more I wrestled with it, and then I talked to Ani, because by then we were dating, and we were even engaged by then, and I said, what would you think if I became a pastor? And she said, no. She had promised herself years ago, I'm not going to marry a pastor, and of course when she met me I wasn't, so I was safe, but by then, we were already engaged to be married, and it's too late for her, But it was cool because I started to really, just say, God, what do you want me to do? If you really want me to do this, I will, but I would need some kind of sign. And so crazy me, I said, this is what I'm going to do, God, and we'll just make a deal. Tomorrow morning I'll wake up, and if I go outside the dorm, the boys' dorm, and I don't see any clouds in the sky, not even one little puffy white, I said, I'll become a pastor. I'll do it. Crazy young guy, right?
Yeah. Thinking
God can do anything. So I said, but if I find even one white cloud, I'm not going to be a pastor, and I'm never going to talk to you about this again. I'm done. So I come outside the boys' dorm the next morning, and perfectly blue sky. You know how rare that is in New England. Perfectly blue sky. I even walked around the dorm to check on the other side, see if there are any clouds. No clouds in the sky. Okay, God, this is what you want. I'll do it. So changed my major to theology. Was working at UPS for a year, going to school full-time, married. Ani was working to support me through my college. And then in my third year, there was a youth pastor position that opened up at the college church. So I did that for 2 years and got full scholarship here at AUC. And then I started moving about the country. Went to New York for 6 years. I pastored in Syracuse and Buffalo. Then I went to Philadelphia, pastored for 3 years in Philadelphia, PA. And then when I was there, I met John Carter. We actually sang for him at camp meeting. John Carter is kind of a televangelist, as you would think. He travels the world, third world countries, runs evangelistic meetings. He has a television program. And he invited us out to California, my wife and I, to sing, because my wife is a singer too. And that's how we met. Mm-hmm. And so we sang for the television program a couple times, and then they were looking for a pastor. and he was looking for an associate evangelist out there. And so somehow my name came up, and we went out and interviewed, and we accepted the position. That was pretty heady stuff. That I would say that, at that point I thought, man, wow, I'm going to be on TV, I'm going to travel the world. We went to Russia and ran meetings there, where hundreds and hundreds of people came out, and, we baptized a bunch of people. It was just exciting stuff, And doing, in our denomination, 3ABN is like the big TV, the big TV station that we have, satellite broadcast. People really watch it. So to be on there, was heady stuff. I can remember going to a church on my vacation in Nevada, and and we're sitting in church, and the head elder goes, "We have a celebrity here today. Would you stand up? I've seen you on 3ABN." And by that time in my life, I'm thinking, wow, what's going to happen with this? Where am I going? And then when we were in Russia, I was sitting in the windowsill and looking out the window, watching hundreds of people walk by, just thinking about my life, and just started to pray, like, God, this is awesome. This is what you want from me? And I don't want to say I heard a voice or anything, but something in my heart said, no, it's not what I want for you. I'm like, what do you mean? This is exciting. Look at television, evangelism. And he says, no, this is not what I want for you. And I said, well, what do you want from me, God? I would, whatever. And I just felt in my heart, just want you to be a good pastor, And I thought, leave all this. This is exciting. And I said, okay, God, if that's what you want. So talked to my wife. She said, sounds good to me. So we went back to California. I talked to my boss in California. I said, I just want to be a pastor. Get me a church. So I spent 3 years pastoring. I left the evangelism television ministry, went back into pastoring, pastored there 3 years. And so I'd been away from this area where my parents live, my brother lives, my wife's family's all in this area. We've been away from here for 15 years. And then the job opens up here. We hear that there's an opening. And I'm like, oh, that would be nice to go home. We haven't been home in so long. And so I started praying about it, but didn't hear anything for months. And then my wife's sister works in the conference office, and so she starts telling us, oh, they're going to start collecting resumes. And so I get in my resume, and anyway, end up getting accepted for the position. So they moved us back out here.